I think we can all agree that medication adverts in the 2000s were fucking hilarious, especially in America. They always had some form of hazy filter laid over stock video footage of white people looking pasty in the wilderness. But whether it was antidepressants or the boner go up pills, it's easy to see the giant market that's grown from medicating America's suburbs. Or as Cat Williams put it,
and now you on 2 medications looking like a flamingo in front of your motherfucking children and shit.
And so, as art imitates life, in 2005, Go Fish Pictures released The Chumscrubber, a comedy drama starring an ensemble cast led by Jamie Bell. The title of the film refers to a video game character in the movie, who carries his own severed head around fighting the forces of evil. The actual plot of the movie focuses on the chain of events that follow the suicide of a teenage drug dealer in an idealistic but superficial town called Hillside. And while the plot moves the film along nicely, it's the quiet character moments in between scenes that show us the real side of growing up in the suburbs. The bizarre interactions with some neighbours that you don't want to get to know too well and at the same time can't help but be nosy in their lives. The unsettling Kubrickian feeling of living on a street that's practically in the centre of a fucking maze of identical streets and indistinguishable houses, where every adult feels like what they're working on is the most important thing in the universe and every teenager is either medicated or peddling some form of medication. The themes of boorish behaviour, hypocritical judgment and youth in revolt are handled expertly by writer-director Ari Posin, stating that one of the themes of the film is that adults in this world seem to be immature or childish, whereas the kids tend to be more mature and sophisticated for their age. And that level of care and attention to detail is why all the kids are shot below eye level to create the impression of looking up at an adult, while the adults are filmed below the eye level, making us feel like we're looking down at a kid. And while all the adults in the film are attempting to lead perfect lives, they can't see their children are being driven to suicide, medication addiction and even kidnapping. The Chumscrubber boasts an ensemble cast that would make most superhero movies look like chump change in comparison. And though the film is led by a stellar performance from lead actor Jamie Bell, the rest of the cast don't phone it in at all. Ray Fiennes as Michael Ebbs, the mayor of Hillside, is one of the most fascinating characters ever portrayed, and if the film is about escaping the environment of atypical behaviours and standards in lieu of finding oneself, then Michael Ebbs has an arc so massive that all 79 of Jupiter's moons just moved across time and space to orbit Ray Fiennes. Glenn Close as Carrie Johnson is devastating in this movie, spending a good 90% of it with this thin veneer of niceness permeating every line she delivers. Everything she says is rooted with some form of social judgment or sarcasm, and it's truly a joy to watch Glenn Close absolutely crush this role. You see, Troy the drug dealer who kills himself in the opening scene was Carrie Johnson's son. His suicide begins a cascade of fallout for the surrounding families, but none more so than Carrie, spending almost the entire movie smiling and refusing to deal with the grief of losing her son, holding up a mask of blissful ignorance even at her son's memorial until it's all too much. The medications, the disingenuine interactions, the weight of the reality she now has to inhabit becomes too much. The supporting cast fill their respective roles perfectly, with each character feeling like an actual lived-in human who'd inhabit this self-centered world, signalling their own virtue with every interaction. With names like William Fichtner, Alison Janney, Carrie Ann Moss, Rita Wilson and John Hurd, the Chumscrubber fills its supporting roles with true character actors who know the world they're going to have to inhabit and absolutely shine in their respective roles. The Chumscrubber also has an original score by composer James Horner, who also scored some other small films like Titanic, Apollo 13 and Braveheart. Horner does a great job of gripping you in the tense scenes, but when it's time to slow down and talk about heavy subjects, the score is almost angelic and does a great job of conveying how the characters on screen are feeling without ever overshadowing the performances. The Chumscrubber didn't get a whole lot of publicity aside from attending the Sundance Film Festival in 2005, and as far as Hollywood was concerned, it was a commercial and critical flop, and that's a real shame. I think audiences today would appreciate a deep dive into life in the suburbs before everything became so political and divided. The Chumscrubber takes these themes of living life under the cloudy guise of medication, sprinkles in a little bit of kidnapping, a dash of narcissism, and a whole fucking heap of suburbia. The Chumscrubber offers something more than that to anyone watching it. Just like the word Chumscrubber has different meanings depending on who you are and where you are in life. To the parents, the Chumscrubber is everything we ignore. All those subjects and conversations that parents and teens should be having but aren't. the physical embodiment of everything we'd rather not deal with, everything that causes pain. To the teenagers, the Chumscrubber is a hero, a survivor, a fellow teenager who arrives in the real world to protect or keep his or her friends safe. The Chumscrubber is the one film that fights against all odds to keep things authentic. While everyone in the film is being superficial and playing the ignorance is bliss card, the Chumscrubber comes along and knocks some sense into the world. This is achieved in seemingly insignificant moments. Just one or two words, a look, a well-timed sigh. The Chumscrubber is what parents don't want to think about because the idea of the child being more in tune with life than the adult is just plain depressing. The parents are the ones who are supposed to be solving problems, trying to save the world. It's probably not that easy to find somewhere to watch the Chumscrubber. It's not likely to appear on streaming platforms either. But if you're in a shop and happen to see its DVD cover, odds are you're in a garage and you're looking at the bargain bin. And that's a shame, because for all its lack of commercial success, the Chumscrubber certainly felt like it had something to say, an artistic style of presentation, and social commentary so strong that your average Tumblr user would have been triggered into a multifaceted seizure before the end of the first act. And that's my thoughts on the Chumscrubber. A well-told story within a superficial world where being down to earth makes you feel like an alien, and the best course of action is to sit in ignorance and smile behind a mask.